Hey there everyone, I'm Duskey Dreamer, and you may be wondering what this is. We're talking about props. Why am I all dressed up? So right before this I went and did a Princess Hilda photo shoot with my wonderful boyfriend, who is very tolerant and accepting of my obsession, and I don't know. If I could have this naturally, I would, so I kept it in. But let's get started. I have 4 bending props here. I have this red one for the Fire Nation. I have this light blue one for lightning, which, it's hard to try to do one for lightning because it's the Fire Nation, but it's blue, so that also looks like water. So I tried with a lighter blue, and then I have this darker blue one for my friend. So let me show you how these are actually made. In order to make these, I got a tennis ball and I cut it in half. So you can kind of see in half of it in what I did on the inside. So this is one of the kind of like janky low budget ones, which I essentially just made with things from around the house. I cut the tennis ball in half. I had nut and bolts. I have 1 washer in there to keep the tennis ball from ripping open bigger and having it come through all the way. Normally what you would want to use when you make one of these would be one of those bolts that have this giant ring on the end, because they're the easiest to use. You tie the fishing wire to it into a knot. I like to use a square knot because I know it's not going to come undone. Stab a hole through the tennis ball, and then on the other side put as many bolts or as many nuts on the bolt as you think will give you the appropriate weight that you need. It's going to depend on the length of your fabric and the weight of your fabric. So I found for this lightning one that I was going to need about 3 or 4 nuts on it in order to give it the proper flow, and it's really hard to see right now, but I will get some footage showing it with more space so it can be appreciated. And then on the other side of the fishing wire, you are going to want to make some kind of space for it to go onto your hand. Now, in the past, I have used key rings, and they're great, except because you have the starting and ending coil, you do have to cover those up with some kind of tape or something, where you're going to start scratching up your fingers. For these ones, I made them all slip knots. That way I can kind of adjust the length that I want it to be, if I only want to have it be a little bit away from my hand, or if I want to give it some more room to move around. That way I'm more versatile. And I mean, as long as I'm very conscious that my finger is being squeezed, I'm not going to irreparably pinch off the circulation in my finger. So I'm not really worried about that. But the great thing about these props is that you can make them super easy and super cheap. You just need, like, 1 tennis ball can make 2 props. If you have one of these hooky bolts with some nuts on it, that's great. And if you don't, which is why I have this janky one, it's really easy to do as well. You just get a normal bolt. Having a washer is good because it keeps the bolt from accidentally ripping the hole in the tennis ball bigger and then coming through it. But then I just took some wire and twisted it so that it was a loop. And then I took the other ends of it and just wrapped it around underneath the washer and twisted it back onto itself. So you're probably not going to be able to see that very well. But then on the underside, I found out that this one only needed to have about 2 nuts, which is not totally because the bolt wasn't big enough to have more than 2 nuts. It ended up actually being the perfect weight for this one, and it moves perfectly fine, which makes me really happy. This fabric is lighter than most of the others that I have, so 2 nuts ended up being just fine. For fabric, you're going to want to use lining materials, essentially the lightest stuff you can find that is still in some kind of color. You know, you're going to want to play with the bolt a little bit and wave it around and see if it'll give you the kind of flow that you want. All of these just happen to be leftover fabric from other projects, so I really lucked out and didn't have to spend anything extra. Now, I've really experimented with the length and the width of these pieces of fabric to find something that would be the best. And I have come to find that the ideal length for these tends to be around 4 feet to 4.5 feet long, and then about 5 to 6 inches wide. And then you're going to fold it in half and just make a seam almost all the way across the top, but you're going to leave it undone in the very corner. That way you can slip your wire through, or your fishing line. And then just put it on the inside, if I can. There. Now it's inside. The tennis ball may stick out a little bit, but that's okay because these are going to be in constant motion, so it's not really going to be noticeable at all. I mean, unless you really don't like that, you can also use clear ornaments like Christmas orbs, and you can make sure you get them in plastic because you should not be cutting glass, but cut them in half, do the same thing, but I will tell you, you will probably need to put some additional washers or nuts onto it because those are a lot lighter than tennis balls. So yeah, that is how I made these. I did not hem any of the outside edges. This fabric does fray, as you can see it right here, but I personally think it kind of adds to the whole illusion of, you know, some kind of bending thing, and again, when it's in motion, you can't really see it, so I'm not too concerned. Alright,